This episode is special, not just because of who I'm talking to, but because of what he represents. He's someone who's taken the long road from a regular 9 to 5 job and paying off student debts to building a portfolio of brands that has helped thousands of people across the world earn on their own terms. He's built tools, platforms, and education for freelancers and agency owners, and he's built a thriving community and a legacy that's just getting started. I'm talking about Chris M. Walker, founder of Legit, Superstar SEO, Audit Snap, and more businesses. A serial entrepreneur in his own right, a disciplined operator, and someone who is in the game for the right reasons. Chris, it's an honor.
Thanks for having me. That was a great intro. I kind of want to hear what I have to say now.
Um, I prepared a lot for this because when you booked a call and I saw what you've done, it really inspired me because you were not really going into like entrepreneurship in a I'm gonna get rich, I'm gonna be a millionaire kind of thing. I'm just gonna quote quote something from your YouTube video. You said, "My life was pretty standard: be born, be a kid, get your diploma, go to college, get a job at a good company, work your way up, and then settle down and start a family. All a very humble life that requires its own sacrifices. But the truth is that times are changing, society is shifting, and while that old framework may still work for some people, it never felt right for me." What was life like before that entrepreneurial leap? And when did that internal pressure of not feeling right really start building up?
I mean, I think on some level, I always knew it wasn't a fit. I don't want to say I was a bad employee, but I wasn't, I was just good enough to not get fired employee. And I think when it really like started to hit for me was around 2013. I know I'm probably older than a lot of your audience, but, um, and at that point I was working as a level 1 tech support for a real estate development company. Basically, when you call and you say, I forgot my password, I got locked out, I was the guy that would answer the phone, that sort of thing. And at the time, not only did I not like what I was doing and felt I was in fact overqualified for it, but I also didn't have, I mean, the company I worked for, I don't want to dog on them because they're good people, but I didn't have any future prospect. You know what I mean? Like if I kept working there another 20 years, I'd have been doing the exact same thing for another 20 years.
Right.
And I wasn't making terrible money, but I wasn't making enough money. And I had a good pile of credit card debt at the time that job was never going to be enough to get me out of. So
Mm.
I had to figure out either get a better job or make more money. And like I said, I wasn't a good employee. So while I was at work, I was like surfing around on the internet, and I found a blog post about affiliate marketing that kind of it's piqued my interest because I never knew that was a thing before. And if you don't know, or whoever's watching doesn't know, affiliate marketing is basically where you promote somebody else's product and you get a commission. So it's sort of like that. And the way I started doing that in the beginning was through what I didn't even know that this is what it was called at the time, but I was doing search engine optimization. Back then you could make like a blog or a review site and it would rank in Google search pretty easily. The first one I started, it still exists today. It doesn't make any more money, but it was about streaming services and streaming devices. And I would review like Roku devices or Apple TV or Netflix or things like that, and then sign up for their affiliate program and then get commissions from the traffic I got from Google. And that was going pretty well. But then later that year, a Google algorithm update came out and it wiped away all my traffic. And I didn't even know those were a thing at the time. I couldn't figure out what happened. But at that point, I was kind of like, and I hope this is okay to use this analogy, but I was kind of like a heroin addict. I had gotten my first hit of making money on my own, and now I was addicted. Then what I did, I bought a course from a guy called Alex Becker. Some of your people watching might know who that is, but he had a course called Source Phoenix, which was $1,000, which was a huge investment for me at the time. I paid for it on PayPal credit, and I started learning client SEO from that. And what client SEO is basically what we would think of as an agency. It's where you do search engine optimization for businesses. So I started doing that while still having that day job. And since I was still at that day job, when I would get it, I would send cold emails all day. And when I would get a call, I would have to go into the bathroom to take the call because I didn't want to get in trouble for doing a business while I was at work. So I started making some money from that. And then the same person that I sold that course made a marketplace similar to Fiverr, but for SEO. And on a whim, I just listed a service that I resold from Fiverr on that site. And I didn't think anything of it. It was just what the hell kind of thing. And then one day I was at the gym and I was on the elliptical and I got a PayPal notification on my phone for $10. I'm like, well, what the hell is this? And like I had to like research it for a bit and figure out where that $10 came from. And it came from that marketplace. And then I got another one and another one and another one. And I listed a few other things and I got a few more. And then an influencer endorsed some of my services for his like training. And I got flooded with orders then. And between that and the client SEO, I was finally able to quit the job. And that brings us up to about 2016 or so. So I can go into what I've done since then, but that was the direct answer to your question. That was how I went from not having any interest, I'm not saying not interest, but that was what made me take the leap, I guess.
Right. Gotcha. Gotcha. I want to clarify, like, what was the $10 again? Like, what
Uh,
was the offer?
It was an SEO service. It was called a thing called Social Signals. And all I did was I found somebody on Fiverr that was selling it for $5 and I
Okay.
listed it for $10 on the other site. And I don't do that anymore, just to be clear, but, and I don't
Right.
recommend that, but like, I'm glad I did because that was what, that was the, without that, I wouldn't be where I am today without that one random decision.
Gotcha, gotcha. Did you always think that, like, I know one of your things that you said as well, like you always thought that you were gonna make it, right? But did you always think that you were gonna be like a 7-figure, 8-figure founder? Always?
I don't know. I always knew I could do more and was, as cheesy as this sounds, as like destined for more. And looking back on it, I had tried other entrepreneurial things in the past that didn't really go anywhere because I didn't like know what I was doing. I'm old enough to where there wasn't really an internet when I was trying some of these. Like there was an offer that I got from like a late night commercial where you would put like these tiny ads and classifieds throughout the country. Don Lapre was the guy that sold that. And I tried a software business once and I signed up for, got a taxi ID and business license and all that shit. And pardon my language, but
Okay.
okay, you never know. But and I never that went anywhere with that. So somewhere in my mind, I knew this was something that I should be doing. That I wasn't meant to work for other people because I didn't like anyone I ever worked for, and it's not a knock on them. Like
Mm.
I was the problem. I mean, some of them were, but not all of them were. So I guess the answer to your question is I know I didn't envision that, but I did know that I had more potential than just a random job. Like
Gotcha. If
basically, I would think that this can't be it. You know what I mean? Like, and I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to feel like I'm insulting anyone that is enough for because
Mm.
it is enough for some people. And some people I know are far happier doing that than I am doing what I do. But for me, that wasn't enough.
Gotcha. Do you think like if 25-year-old Chris, like that Chris who was still hustling at in affiliate marketing, if he saw you now, would he be shocked or would he be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense"?
Well, first of all, I was closer to 35 at that time.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be 47 this year, and so
Oh, okay.
just like I
Okay.
said, I'm probably quite a bit older than most of the people that watch this, but yeah, absolutely. The initial goal was just to make enough to quit the job, like
Mm,
and to pay off the credit card debt. Like I wanted to pay off the debt and then make enough the same amount that I made at the job because my logic at the time being I'm surviving on this, so I don't need any more. Now, like I think look back and think how stupid that was, but yeah, there's no way I would have predicted it would go where it did.
right, right. Gotcha, gotcha. So now you're doing like the affiliate marketing, you did SEO. One thing you talk a lot about in your content as well is the concept of like the shiny object, the woman
Mhm.
in the red dress. During those times when you were like, because I was also doing like a night shift before I did like this whole agency thing. I was also in college as well, so I was like that young kid who was just trying to hustle, and really you would it's really tempting to just hop on a trend and like look for quick money.
Drop
How did
shipping.
you how did you manage those like shiny objects during those times?
I didn't. I jumped on a lot of them. I did like drop shipping. I had this business where I would find stuff that was selling on eBay and then go find it on Amazon and then use my Amazon Prime account drop ship it directly to people on eBay, which is against Amazon Prime terms of service. So don't try it. Had like all kinds of different things I tried. So the answer is I didn't. And it took even like after I like quit and so, like, was working on my own, I was still getting sucked into those until legit came along and gave me focus.
Right. So really, what happened was there was one big thing that happened to you that took away all your focus in a way.
I mean, I wouldn't put it quite like that. I wouldn't say it took it
Yeah.
away.
Right.
It took, you know, it's where now it gives me purpose and one thing to work
Mhm.
on and get better at. But I still fall into that trap every once in a while. I'm gonna do, one day I'm gonna do, I don't know, a social media agency or something. But for the most part, everything comes back to that, and like everything I do is an extension of.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Have you ever had like moments where you think like, "Oh, I'm not cut out for this," or like, I wasn't made for this"?
Of course, I mean, self doubt happens, shitty days happen, and make you want to quit. And like, it's harder. One thing is like, it's just harder to quit a business than it is a job. But yeah, of course, there have been days when I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? I would love it if I just had to come in, punch the clock, do what's handed to me. But those are the exception. Like, and the longer I do this, the less of those
Mm,
I get. Like, I look back now and realize I would, if anything ever happened, I would be an even worse employee than I was back then, because now I'm
interesting.
used to not having to listen to anybody else.
So you are a better entrepreneur than an employee, you would say?
Yeah, definitely. And that's because I think I always know best. And I not really, but like, I mean, it feels that way. Like, I just don't want to do things I don't want to do, I guess is the way to put that.
Right. Gotcha.
And a
Gotcha.
lot of having a job means doing things you don't want to do. Or maybe I just had jobs that weren't a good fit, but that's been my experience.
So you really just wanted, in a way, in a sense, you actually wanted freedom. Like
Yeah,
no one just tell you no one like you're not gonna work at a specific time at a specific place. Just wanted to be free.
absolutely. Like with a job, you have to like show up when they tell you to. You have to go to lunch when they tell you to. You have to leave when they tell you to. You have to dress the way they tell you to. You have to go on vacation the way they tell you to. You have to go to the bathroom when they tell you to. You have to work on what they tell you to work on. You're basically a cog in a machine. Now, that's not always true. I have employees, and I certainly hope none of them feel that way. I've done my best to make sure I don't create the same environment that got me here in the first place. I try to give them as much freedom as possible. So that's not always the case, but that was how I felt, especially in the last job. I'll actually tell a little story about that last job. They would have these team meetings. Like the company had, I don't know, maybe 300 employees, and they would have these company wide meetings at this golf course that they own. And one time, the last one that I worked there, they brought us over and they gave us the whole thing. And the CEO or president or whatever his title was up there telling us how great the company was doing and how much money they were making for their shareholders and so on. And then later that day, we get back to our office and we've got a note that they gave us like, because we had to be on call sometimes. So they paid some of our cell phone bill. And we got a note saying they were reducing the amount that they were giving us for our cell phone bill on the same day that they told
Where
us
they said,
how great the company was doing and how much they were making for their shareholders. Now, the actual amount really wasn't that much money. It didn't really make any difference, but it was the principle of the thing.
yeah.
And then a funny story on top of that, last year, my company legit had a live event, like a kind of a conference type of thing.
Mm.
And we had our conference in that exact same golf course, in that exact same room that I had that meeting that made me quit in. And I thought that was just so poetic. And I told that story as like the first thing at that event.
Wow. Yeah, that is a great story. I mean, that kind of sucks what they did to you. They like, yo, we made a lot of money, so we're gonna take some money from you.
Yeah. And again, it wasn't like I actually got like they were being more than generous with
Mhm.
the cell phone budget. And it was just the timing of it that just
Right.
it was like
Yeah.
a slap in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. So you started like so we go back to your story. You that got that PayPal notification, and you started like a superstar SEO. And one of the key things that you said you speak about in this phase is you built a Facebook community, the people who participate in Super SEO. What has the community, what role has that community played into your growth and like business wise?
It was everything. Just to extend on the story I was telling before, what happened after a while was that marketplace I was selling things through started to become unreliable. I would get crash, it would crash, it would get hacked, things like that. And what I had been doing with the orders I would deliver, I would create a Facebook group. When I delivered my order, I was like, hey, if you want to join my group and get some discounts and some information, do that. And they did. and I started engaging with people and getting to know people that way. Also, when that site started becoming unreliable, I was like, well, I got to replace this income. So I started selling through my agency site, my Superstar SEO site, the services. And well, because I had made connections with both the customers and some of the freelancers from that other site, they were like, well, can we start selling stuff through your site too? And I was like, all right, well, maybe I'm onto something here. And so I partnered with a developer who was also a customer from that other site, and we developed Legit to kind of replace that in the beginning. And that was just going to be like an extra product for Superstar SEO, but it took off on its own, like almost immediately, and was my number one revenue source. But to answer your question, the reason I was able to do that is because I had created that community and had distribution built in. What I mean by
Mm.
that is I had a customer base of people who knew, liked, and trusted me, people I interacted with and gave, and this term gets overused, but gave value to. And that group, it's still going to this day. I was in it just an hour ago or so, but that group was absolutely pivotal in making that happen. And if I hadn't done that, again, I wouldn't, that was another decision. If I hadn't made that one random decision that one day to start doing that, it wouldn't have worked out the way it did. And funny reasons, the story about that is like the only reason I created it in the first place was I just wanted to own all the URLs of my brand. I mean, the Facebook page and the Facebook group and so on. And I just created it for that reason. And then I was like, maybe I'll just sell people over there. And, it worked. Now it's got like 80,000 people in it. So,
Yeah, it's cool. Is it still running until today? You're still cool. That's awesome. So, um, you because the thing is now, community building has become big ever since Hermosi invested on school. But you were but you were way ahead of your time. Like, how did that idea? So you mentioned that you really wanted to build that, but was there like a maybe you searched it somewhere, maybe you joined. Like, what was the inspiration on building a community?
well, I have a background. One of the other careers I had was in politics. I worked as a political organizer, a field organizer. So what that is if you ever see like an office in your like your community that's like this candidate's like office, like I would be the person that would work in that office and get to know people in the city. And so what I did was create groups and communities around that in topics that candidate stood for. And that's where I kind of learned the concept of community building was from that.
Mm,
But as far as just creating it, like the Facebook group and sending people to it, I saw somebody else doing that. I was like, let me try that. And it was just that
yeah.
was literally the whole process. Let me try that. But I do, from that time in politics and then now my time in marketing, I do understand the value of community and have had great success in both of those in creating communities.
What's been your strategy in growing it to like over 80,000? Do you have like key tactics there or
So
strategies?
in the beginning, it's just a matter of providing value. And I hate that expression because it gets abused, but being helpful to people with no thought of getting anything in return. Like there's like the clients and community people. I don't know if you're familiar with that offer, but they teach people how to monetize Facebook groups. And I guess that works, but it's short term because it's very transactional. You need to give people value with no expectation of getting anything back, and just keep doing that. Keep adding people, keep telling people. And then once you hit, it depends on how you go about it. But once you hit about 1,000 members, then it'll start sending you people without you having to do it. So that's
Mm,
kind of that's not a hard and fast number, but that's been my experience is that's when it kind of starts getting momentum on its own. And then there's some tricks you can do now to, if you have, sorry, allergies, but there's some tricks you can do now. Controversial questions help a lot. So does content matter or does just links, stuff like that with like the purple background that
right.
people can't help themselves but answer. And what that does is get the group into people's feeds, and then that's
Mm,
when they can actually see the stuff that's actually valuable, because people like
mm,
that
mm,
shit but it's not actually valuable, at least not in my opinion. But
right.
then they can get the actual valuable stuff, and then they can get to know you, like you, and then when it's time, when you have something to sell, then they'll trust you and they'll buy from you.
It's like
So
clickbait.
yeah, but that's just a trick. Like that's not like the foundation of your group. The foundation should be being a valuable resource that people actually go to, rather than just
Mm,
waiting for it to show up in their feed, if that makes sense.
that makes sense. Makes sense. You think it's still like at this age, Facebook group still works, or would you have like a different tactic now?
No, I think they still do. In fact, Facebook organic in general is something a lot of people are sleeping on. Like my personal Facebook profile gets about 2 million views a month. And I know people with way more than that. So yeah, it's a lot of, I'm going to sound so old saying this, but a lot of like the younger, like Gen Z types think that X and like Instagram and TikTok, and those all work too, but Facebook absolutely still works for organic traffic. And it's right now, it's really ripe because a lot of people, again, no offense, but younger people think that
Okay.
for boomers and Gen
For
Xers,
old
but
people. Yeah.
right. But there's a lot of traffic there. And you know what? Old people have more money than young people do. So,
Makes sense.
so there's that too. But it can absolutely be abused. And there's a lot of like gimmicky shit that you can do with your personal profile that'll work too. Stuff that like worked really well in like 2022 on Twitter works really well on
Mm.
Facebook. Like
Mm.
I got ChatGPT to act as a blank, and these are the 5 prompts that it gave me, and and then you put those in that shit works really well. So does the I just built a brand new blank, a comment X in the comments, and I'll send it to you. And those pop off really well. So you can really exploit stuff that's probably not going to work forever. You know what I mean? So like there's a lot. So to answer your question, yes, Facebook is probably the most, as weird as it is, because it's got like 1 out of every 2 people in the entire planet have a
Yeah.
Facebook account. And it's still like a lot of people don't view it as a big traffic source for organic. And it is.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. You're getting me all excited on Facebook now.
Good. Good.
So now you create Superstar SEO, and then you created Legit. You when you created Legit, was there anything like any mistakes or positive things that you saw on scaling your like this specific kind of freelancer-ish agency platform?
Yeah. So there's a lot to answer there.
Mm.
The first one is that, well, let me just address it this way. The first problem was the chicken and the egg problem, because with a freelance marketplace, you have 2 businesses really, because you have to have enough freelancers to meet the demand of the customers, but you have to have enough customers to meet the supply of the freelancers. And you can never have that out of balance. So if you have too many customers, then either they don't find what they need, or the freelancers that are there get overwhelmed and their quality drops. But if you have too many freelancers, they don't get enough work and they give up on the site, or they complain a lot. They're going to complain a lot no matter what I do, but they complain a lot. So that was one problem. Another one was that I expected customers to know what they need and know what they're buying, and they just don't. And I don't mean that to disrespect any of my customers, but they want people to tell them what to buy, and they just want to push the buttons and have it come out.
Right.
And then the other thing is that we have a bit of a Netflix problem. And what I mean by that is, for a long time, we had tons and tons and tons of services, and our customers wouldn't buy anything because they had so many choices, they didn't know what to buy. So that was another problem that we had. And then another problem was that we didn't really know what we wanted to do. And what I mean by that is, I remember when I told you when I started it, it was just going to be an extra product for my SEO business, and I didn't expect it to take off. So we didn't really decide who we were. And what I mean by that is, like, at one point I said, I want to be the Amazon of digital services. I was like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Looking back on that. So along the way, we had to think about, like, at first we were making money and we're doing well, but then we realized that we were just making short-term decisions, like how to make more money than last month. And so we had to decide, like, who do we really want to help? Because for one thing, people would always say, how is this different than Fiverr? Which used to piss me off. But at the same time, I didn't have a good answer to that. So I had to decide what did make us different. And so we thought about it, and we decided that we wanted to help. We had 2 things we wanted to do. We wanted to help businesses grow. Fiverr tries to appeal to everyone that needs any kind of task, or it has like the guy that looks like Jesus that'll hold up a sign that says whatever you want it to say. You joke, but that's like their biggest selling service.
Really? Is that like a fact?
Yeah, there's a dude there that makes like $100,000 a month because he looks like Jesus and will do whatever you tell. So more
Wow.
power to him. Absolutely.
Yeah. He's making money.
Yeah,
That's
but
good.
if you want that stuff, you can go to them. We wanted to work directly with businesses and help businesses grow. So that was who our customer wanted. And as far as a freelancer, we attracted a lot of like low level people that wanted to just do entry level work for a little bit of money. And I decided that's not who I want either. I want someone that's going to do what I did and really commit to the platform and build their own brand around it and just use us as, instead of having to have their own website. So we did everything we've done in the last few years has been toward that. And what we've done to do that is we've built in a lot of like software and a lot of tools and things into the platform that will help you figure out what's wrong with your business, what you need, and then connect you to the people that can do it. And AI, we've built in AI tools that make that even easier. So now we're not really getting compared to Fiverr like we used to. We get compared to like SEMrush or similar
Mm-hmm.
tools to that, which, I still don't like always being compared to somebody, but that's a better comparison to where we want to be than is that.
Yeah.
So those were probably the biggest challenges that we've tackled as far as scaling and creating an identity of who we wanted to be rather than just some place to make money.
Yeah, you don't want to be compared to like a place where Jesus guy
Right.
can do anything, right?
Yeah. And again, more power to them. There's clearly a market for that, but
Yeah,
they can have that business.
100%. So, I'm actually curious, like what you said, it's a very interesting problem where you have like demand and the supply with the freelancer and the businesses. How do you find balance? I assume that's still like like right now you would still struggle about that. How do you solve that?
I don't know. It's an ongoing fight. It's the thing is, it's much easier to get freelancers than it is to get customers. Like
100%.
freelancers, all I have to do is prove that you can make money, and that's as easy as this freelancer made this amount of money, and that will flood us with signups. But convincing people to spend money and then getting them to spend money repeatedly takes a lot of work. And it's not like a high ticket thing where a one customer pays itself off with one. Like one customer, I might start by spending $6 and then they spend 10 and then they spend 20. And it's more of a lifetime value than it is a one-time value. So it's hard. Like it's really hard. And I don't recommend, like, marketplaces used to be the hot thing because of like Uber and Airbnb and
Mhm.
things like that. But I don't recommend it anymore because they're so,
Gotcha, gotcha. It's still, yeah, now I'm thinking about it, that business is quite complicated.
and the
But
margins are super thin too. Cause like the way the marketplace portion of it, the way we get paid through that is we get 15% of a sale. So,
mhm.
it takes, what is it, 15 grand for us to make $1,000. So
Right, right, right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Gotcha. So, in terms of that, then how do you make sure that your growth still goes up?
We've tried a lot of different things. Some things have worked, some things have not. A lot of what I'm doing right now, like these appearances, help that.
Mhm.
My personal brand, I always feel cringy when I say that, but my personal brand
Why is
helps a
that?
lot. Helps a lot with that. Content, ads, SEO, all of that. We have to do omni-channel marketing. We can't do like a
Mhm.
single, like a call funnel or something like that. Like
Right, right, right.
I don't 100% know what you do, but I assume that it's like an agency, and you
Yeah,
probably have people that, like, you probably get leads through either LinkedIn or Instagram or
Twitter.
X or something, Twitter. Yeah, and then you close them on pretty big retainers. That doesn't really work for us, at least not at scale. So we have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get creative. So we do a lot of omni-channel marketing, a lot of remarketing, or a lot of retargeting. If anybody clicks my website from watching this, they're going to see me everywhere they go for the rest of their life, for example. So I do
Sounds yeah.
retargeting on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, Reddit, Quora, uh, Google, literally YouTube. You'll see if you visit my site, you're going to see me everywhere. So that
Right,
helps a
right.
lot.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha. So now it seems that really you're more of like volume in all the spaces. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
volume, but you also have to like do it smartly too. Like just flooding it with traffic isn't enough. And then
Yeah, yeah.
there's the other barrier is there's a bit of an education piece that comes because a lot of what we still is still SEO, and that requires, first of all, assuming that someone needs SEO and then convincing them they need it, and then convincing them to buy it themselves rather than go through an agency, and then showing them how the platform works. There's a lot of like education that has to go into it too. So there's a lot, and it's not for the faint of heart. If
100%.
I timed it just right, if I tried to do that a year sooner or a year later, it probably wouldn't have worked out.
Right. It wouldn't have to scale as much.
Yeah, and if I didn't have that distribution from the Facebook groups and
The
stuff,
Facebook group.
it wouldn't have happened either. I equate that to like obviously on a much smaller scale for me, but like a Mr. Beast or Logan or Jake Paul, how they created all their distribution through their YouTube channels, and now they can just slap their name on whatever product they want and make money out of it. Mr. Beast has like the Lunchable thing and the chocolate bars, and
Mhm.
Paul has Prime, and I guess he's a wrestler or something too, and like they can just take that brand because they've built that popularity through YouTube and put it
Right.
on whatever product they want. And that's kind of what I did too. I didn't realize that's what I was doing at the time, but looking back,
Right.
it's the same. I did that too.
Yeah, because like it's like they came for the SEO, but they stayed for Chris something like that.
Yeah, kind of like that. Like I like by having the audience before you have anything to sell them, I guess is the way to break that down. Is like is having customers before you have anything to sell them. Alex Hormozy does a little bit of that too. Like he for a long time his gimmick was I have nothing to sell you, and then he came out with his book.
Yeah, and then school, and then now it's like every part of the ladder. There's an offer now.
Yeah, yeah, he does like in-person conferences and stuff. So no, I'm not criticizing any of that, but it's that's the I think that process it definitely paid off for me, even though I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time.
Mm,
And I now that I understand it, I see it throughout the internet.
everyone, the
Yeah,
internet, the whole internet, right? Yeah,
yeah.
gotcha. Um, Another quote that really stuck with me. You said the secret isn't complexity; it's consistency.
Mhm.
So what I want to learn more about is like your habits, routines, and unsexy principles that you credit the most for like the growth as a person and as a business owner.
First of all, I want to thank you for you've done a lot of research and on me, and I appreciate that. A lot of times, I do. No offense to anybody that I've done appearances before, but I feel like they have no idea who I am or what I do, and you have clearly done your work. I mean, you laugh, but you should be proud of that. So, just saying.
Thank you.
As far as that goes, what I've tried to do is create an ideal day. And what I mean by that is create a day that helps me, like, I find fulfilling personally, but also makes me productive in my work. And then rearrange my life to where I can do that same day over and over and over again. And that probably sounds tragically boring to some people, but that's people that are addicted to the most powerful drug in the world, and that is new. And what I mean by that is people get hooked where they constantly need new stimulation all the time to feel alive. And what they're missing is that you don't need new, is you just need things that fulfill you. And so I found ways to optimize my day for that. And some of the things I do is I sleep a certain amount of time. Getting good at sleep has helped a lot. Learning how to get like deep sleep and REM sleep, and then I eat at the same time, and then and stuff that it's healthy, but also I enjoy, and then I work for a long time, and I feel when I'm working in those times, I feel really engaged and really alive and vibrant, and so there's that. But then also, and people will sacrifice being successful to keep from being bored. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of stuff in business that works that we do it and it's working, and then we go on to something else, and rather than continuing to do that because we get bored. And I say that from experience because I've had things that worked really well for me that I stopped doing because I got bored. Uh, and that's just so stupid, right? Like instead of like trying to create all these complex, like I'm going to try TikTok, and now I'm going to try, I don't know, in-person events. And I've done all these things, and those are real examples that instead of just doing the three things that work for me as far as growth and marketing were community, live streams on YouTube, and what was the third one? And I have a certain funnel that has worked really well for me. Those three things have worked for me, and I've stopped focusing on all of them at various times and done other things. And so when I'm trying, one of the things I've tried to get back to this year was doing those more and more and more. And then the other thing I've added was doing more appearances like this, because that's the only way to reach people that have never heard of me. But yeah, so instead of, I guess the answer is, instead of trying to add more, it's just try to exhaust the things that you're currently doing. Now, there's going to be a point when some of those things that do work, you've gotten every last drop out of it. Like if it's a wet towel, you've wrung all the
Yeah.
water out of it. At that point, then you can maybe go to something new. But why do something that might or might not work when you have something that works and just do more of it? And I think the reason people don't do that is because they get bored, and people are in our society are so addicted to constantly being stimulated that they can't stand the thought of just doing something over and over and over and over again.
I like what you said there, like the most addictive drug is new. Yeah, because like for me as well, I have also definitely fallen in the trap of like outreach is working, but then I get some clients be like, "Oh, I'm good." And then I don't do some outreach anymore and the pipeline gets dried up, and now like a client leaves, holy shit, I don't have, I don't have anyone in the pipeline anymore because I stopped reaching out. But like do you have a certain like threshold, or like do you have markers to where you think, okay, this is you need to try something new now, or
When something genuinely stops working, you'll know. You know what I mean? Like if you're able to, it's not, I'll use ads as an example. Like if you get to a point where you can pour, if you have a funnel that's working, pour as much money into it as you possibly can until it stops working. And like there will be a point when it just, you can't pour any more money into it and get more out the other end. So that, as an example, is when you know that that's not working and you need to either try another funnel or another creative or another ad, another traffic source or whatever. But
Right.
it's really pretty cut and dry. Like there's no metric, like one metric for any particular thing, but it's pretty
Yeah,
cut and
yeah.
dry that once it stops giving you a return, then you don't stop doing it, but then you let it run on its own and add something else.
Gotcha, gotcha. Another thing that you said there that I really like is forming the ideal day every day,
Yeah.
because it's also something that, like, fortunately, I was able to realize, like, even like as a young guy, I saw it like in the self-help books where it's like, just imagine the ideal day and then live it over and over again. You don't need to like do something extravagant. So how do you think the like someone who is busy like with a 9 to 5, they're gonna say like, I don't have enough time or I can't do this. How do you, what would your advice be for them for like an ideal day?
So that's a real situation, and I'm not oblivious to the fact that I have some privilege to be able to configure my life that way. But I had to earn that. And what I did when I had the job was on top of not doing my job at my job. I know not everybody has that kind of freedom too. Fortunately, I worked at a computer, so I could get away with doing internet shit. But what I also did was take inventory of my time, and I found things that I could stop doing to get an hour here and an hour there. You know, there was a lot of goofing off. I would do this doom scrolling or reading websites and stuff. Start by cutting an hour of that out a day. And if you can't find anything like that, get up an hour earlier or get
Mhm.
out or go to bed an hour later. And then on your weekends, that's a big 16-hour blast of work you can do. So what I'm saying is you have to eliminate things that prevent you from doing that or optimizing your day that way. And for people in the 9 to 5, that thing that's in the way is probably the 9 to 5 itself.
Mhm.
So you got to work towards eliminating that. And to do that, you have to really, really use your time well. And that will give you the freedom to start growing the business and doing whatever it is you're going to do. But it's also going to teach you how to properly optimize your time. Because when you have a 9 to 5, it's almost easier in some ways because you have a finite amount of time that you can dedicate to these things that you claim that you want to do. So you have to be really disciplined with using that time wisely if you're ever going to get out of that cycle. And that what that does is going to create the neural pathways that teach you how to optimize your time. And then when you get out of that nine to
Mhm.
five cycle, you're not going to be like, holy shit, I have 8 extra hours a day. What do I do? You know what I mean? You're going to be used to like wanting to optimize every moment of it to be as effective as possible. So the way to start would be to take an inventory of your time. If you have to write it down, you know, be like for this hour I did this, and be like down to the minute honest, and be like, for those last 45 minutes I scrolled Twitter or whatever. Like eliminate that. And I'm not trying to be like one of those people who's like just cut out social media or whatever, but like figure out what it is that you can give up for an hour, just an hour a day, and then add another 5 minutes, another 10 minutes here, another 10, and it'll snowball. I guess the summary there is eliminate the things that prevent you from having that ideal day. And the way, if that's the thing that's preventing you from doing that is a 9 to 5, that's how you eliminate the 9 to 5.
I gotcha. That's great advice. So I'm thinking this is more of like a kind of a personal question, but you have been like in the business for like a longer time than me, obviously, and you've scaled to like seven figures, and you say like a community is one of the, it's the biggest thing that you've done. What do you think like is the biggest mistake that freelancers, agency owners, people like business owners in general, entrepreneurs? What do you think they get wrong when it comes to relationships with clients, with your customers, like everyone you interact with?
With clients in particular, I feel like a lot of them focus on getting the sale and not delivering it. Most like agency offers that I get in my DMs are, let me get you a bunch of appointments. I was like, so somebody probably taught him to teach people how to get a bunch of appointments. And I was like, who's actually doing the work? Like, it seems like, so if one thing they get wrong is not delivering well. Like some of that comes from false self-confidence, self-worth, like the know your worth. As like, well, in the beginning, you're not worth anything. Like not as a person, but like you have to like prove that you can do things. And it might mean accepting a lower payment in the beginning or whatever, but a lot of them don't just do give the client what they deserve. For example, in my SEO group a while back, I asked a client has been with you for 6 months and you're charging them $3,000 a month. How much should they have made from that 18 grand that they've invested with you? And the number of them that didn't say at least twice what they had invested was mind blowing to me. Like, why should you get to demand making $3,000 a month, but they don't get to make $3,000 a month? So you need to deliver more than you cost, at least 2x what you cost. And a lot of people get that wrong. And then the client leaves or they don't sign up in the first place and they blame the client or whatever. I'm like, you need to deliver. So I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, but that's a big problem I see. Another big problem I see is they just, and it's one I talked about earlier, but like they have no idea what their business is about. Like they have no idea where they're going. Their goal is to just make more money than last month.
Morning, yeah.
And, you know, in the beginning, that does have to be your goal because you have to keep the lights on. You have to feed yourself. But once you get to where you're established enough, you should have a long-term goal and start using that to make better long-term decisions rather than short-term decisions. And even big companies I see still fall into that trap.
Gotcha. So to clarify, the first question really is the sale, focusing too much on the sale. Remember this quote? I forgot the book exactly. I think it's like "Don't Never Lose a Customer Again." That's the book where he said like the sale isn't finished until the client gets the results,
That's
right?
a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And a lot of
because
people
a
just
lot of
don't care.
people, yeah. A lot of people like think of just closing the sale and they celebrate because they close the sale, but
Mhm.
then after that, there's no ROI.
Yeah. You know who illustrates that point really well and without intending to is there's like affiliate managers. And when they have like a new offer that they're trying to get affiliates to promote, they talk about how well it converts and how much commission you can make and how it's recurring. And they don't tell you shit about what it actually is that you're promoting. And that to me proves that they don't care, that they consider an effective product to be one that sells well as opposed to one that actually
Right.
gets results.
Wow, that's very interesting. Like when you display sales rather than like my client, this changes lives, right?
Right. Right. And it doesn't have to be that dramatic, but you know, it has to be
Yeah.
that they got like, if I'm going to promote something, I want to know that it's a good product. They don't care. Like some people don't care if it's a good product as long as it sells. And like, everybody works for money, but some people work merely for money. And people that work
Mm-hmm.
merely for money to me are making a mistake.
Gotcha. This actually connects well to like another quote that I like hearing from you. You said like success for me means giving people opportunity. That's the thread behind everything I do. That's really why like the introduction that I gave with you earlier about like starting a business for the right reasons is the case because you're really well, of course the money's in there. Your motivation in the beginning as well to get out of the 9 to 5 is about money, but now you really want to help people. So I'm curious, like, um, where does this mission come from, and what keeps you going, with this mission?
It's a good question. I guess I feel like I don't want to say I got lucky, but I solved the puzzle. Like I felt I was pretty unhappy for the first half or more than half of my adult life. I had a great childhood, but like as far as like once I got to be an adult, I just felt like I was. It's so cliche, but I felt like I was in the Matrix, and I feel like somebody unplugged me, and not in an Andrew Tate kind of way, but uh, yeah, but from just you know, I just being an entrepreneur has given me so much opportunity to have a better life and meet better people and do things that I didn't even think that were. I thought there was like a list of who got to do certain things and who didn't, and I thought I wasn't on the list, and I realized it's just you have to put yourself on the list for lack of a better term, and I just want other people to have that same opportunity. So that's kind of like I told you that everybody needs to have a long-term goal for their business. Ours with Legit is to have every business on earth use our platform so they can grow and scale to where they want to go. Because I want them to have the same opportunities that I've had and the same quality of life that I've had. I also started a nonprofit recently that is to help teach like underprivileged young people entrepreneurship. And because again, if somebody would have done that for me when I was younger, I would be 25 years further along than I am now. So I guess what keeps me going is that I know that it's benefited me so much and I've gotten so much from it that I feel obligated to give that opportunity to other people.
It's actually also one of the things that I'm inspired to do as well. I think it's why I really am honored to have you here because I I'm from the Philippines. I grew up in a third world country, and I've always had this what do you call it? What's that term again? The figure speech, chip on your shoulder. Because like
Yeah,
I've always thought there's also like family issues. I never met my dad.
me neither.
My mother identity was changed as well. So there's a lot of things going on. I feel like that mission of giving that opportunity to others is really noble. So I'm really happy that you're getting all this grace and sharing it to the world as well, man.
Well, thank you. And I never met my father either, is what I meant by that.
Yeah,
I get where you're coming from.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
But
awesome that you didn't meet your
no,
father,
I know,
but
I know. I know. I know what you meant. Yeah. So no, I appreciate you saying that. And I from even though I've only known you for an hour, I can see some of that in you too.
thank you. So 20 years from now, what do you want people to say about yourself, Chris M. Walker?
Hopefully I'm still alive 20 years from now. I mean, I am in my late 40s. I don't really care, to be honest. I just want to know that I don't care what they say. I just want to know that I've had a positive impact. Like I've done more good than harm. Like we all do
Mm,
both. And I just want to know that I've made a difference for somebody. So whatever
mm.
they say, I don't care. If they say something good, if they say something bad, it won't matter because someday I'm going to be gone and nobody's going to remember me. But if what I did had an impact, then that's enough for me.
All that matters is your opinion. So, last question. If someone right now is listening right now and they've tried freelancing, they've tried the Amazon FB, Amazon, was that like the one you did?
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
illegal.
Drop shipping. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're barely getting by. They're stuck. What is an advice that you would tell them?
Find one thing and get really good at it and keep doing it until it works. If you do it long enough, it'll work. And if you do it long enough, you're going to get good at it. You're going to get to where you're kept passionate about it and that you like it. So instead of jumping from thing to thing, figure out what your thing is and go all in on it.
That's Chris M. Walker, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Chris, for hopping on.
Thank you.
To people who want to get to know you more, get in contact with you, where can they find you?
If you have a business, please go over to legit.com, legit with two eyes, because one eye wasn't enough, and sign up there. You can just be as a freelancer or as a business owner. And if you want to get to see anything more of me, go to Facebook and look for Chris M. Walker, or YouTube and Chris M. Walker. I'm on all the platforms, but those are my two that I'm most active on.
We'll link that below. Thanks again, Chris, and I'll see
Thank
you
you.
again. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.